Good. So the first part, which was increasing our financial knowledge, that was the first tool for our event tonight. I hope you guys gleaned some good insight on that and got some tips. Now we are going to move on to the portion where it's about personal building, the one that Joey had talked about earlier. We're going to start with a speaker who can help us get a sense for building our personal leadership. To lead others, of course, we have to define the direction for ourselves, follow it with consistency and clarity to inspire others. So we have a special speaker for you today. Hopefully he will inspire you to define that direction and help you live the most fullest life you can. Our next speaker is the president of AC Ventures Inc. and a member of the board of director of Globe Telecom Inc., Integrated Microelectronics Inc., AC Energy Holdings, Ayala Healthcare Holdings, Ayala Education, AC Infrastructure Holdings Corp., and AC Industrial Technology Holdings Inc. Whew, that's a lot. He was named as the ING FinEx CFO of the year for 2017. He is also a runner and has finished 4 marathons in Manila, Paris, Tokyo, and Berlin. How do you have time for all of this? But more than anything, of course, he's a family man with 3 children and 2 beagles. So everyone, let us please welcome the Chief Financial Officer of the Ayala Corporation, Mr. T.G. Limcaoco.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, does this work? Thank you very much, Annalisa, for that very nice introduction, which I wrote myself. To be honest, I have no idea what I am doing here tonight. This is the first time I've been asked to talk about leadership and my personal journey through leadership. I really think it's Joey's and Jinbi's revenge on me. I understand there was another speaker was to come ahead. I think it was some very famous singer who canceled last week, and they got me instead. But let me tell you why I'm very happy to be here amongst all of you. I've met some of you here tonight. Some of you are old friends. I can't mention your names because bank secrecy does not allow me to mention your names. But I have a friend at this table, I have a friend in table number 8, I have a friend in table number 27. Exactly 3 years ago, I was pulled away from BPI. 3 years ago today marks the day I left BPI. 3 years ago was my last day at BPI. And on March 1st, 2015, I was moved back to Ayala Corporation with the honor of being their CFO. People ask me, what is a leader? What gives me the ability to speak to this huge room full of clients of BPI and talk about leadership? I've asked myself that, and I said, what am I going to tell all these clients of BPI? All of you are very successful. All of you are well-heeled. All of you have come into your own right. And you're all leaders. I don't think any one of you here will say you're not a leader. You're successful. You have probably kids who are going to be as successful. And I thought about it, and I said, maybe what I should do tonight is talk about what are the lessons we should tell our children about leadership. Because leadership is not something that can be learned. Leadership is something that is taught. Leadership is something that you imbue from others and you motivate, you change your behavior to become a leader. In fact, I have a personal saying that I always want to learn, I just hate to be taught. Right? I've always wanted to learn, I just hate to be taught. And I'm sure many of you are of that sort. You know, where we are today, the success you have, you feel that you've brought it upon yourselves, that you're a self-made man, you're a self-made woman. But little do we know that where we are today was really brought about by learning and not teaching. So, what are the 3 things about leadership that I just want everyone to end up thinking about tonight? I was trying to figure out, what is it about leadership? What is it that we want people to go home with tonight? And for me, leadership can be distilled into 3 things. The first is that a leader is always very clear about what they want to achieve. The second is that a leader inspires and motivates. And the third is a leader is always thankful. So I put that in 3 words: aspiration, inspiration, and appreciation. Sorry, I have to refer to my cards because this is the first time I'm giving this talk. And if you go home with that, aspiration, inspiration, and appreciation, you have everything you need to know about being a powerful leader. So let's go through them one by one. What is aspiration? A leader must be of the type that says, I need my people, I need the people around me to know what we are trying to achieve. Because if people aren't clear what we're trying to achieve, then you don't have direction. But what is more important is the fact that you must remember there's a thing called the commander's intent. What is the commander's intent? The commander's intent is everybody in your organization or your family or your team, as Coach Chot will say, must know the single goal that we are trying to achieve. So I was talking to Coach Chot just a while ago. I said, Coach, what is our goal for this FIBA? Right? We have 2 FIBA championships, 2019 and 2023. What is our goal? What is our goal for our team? And I'm sure Coach Chot knows what the goal is. And I'm sure the 20 players he has in his farm, how many? The 23 players he has in his farm know what the goal is, right? Maybe I don't know, but Coach Chot and his players know what that goal is. And why is that important? It's important because if the leader, if you are to disappear, or if you are to be absent for a while, your people must know what to do in spite of your absence. That's what a good leader is, right? And so communication is very, very important. You must be crystal clear about what it is. So let me give an example. President John F. Kennedy, in 1962, in the middle of the race to put a man on the moon, right, was very clear. He addressed what was then newly formed NASA. But he wasn't talking to NASA, he was talking to the whole country. And he was very clear. He said, we choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. And so it was very clear, the mission was very clear to the government, to NASA, to the people, you must land a man on the moon by the end of the 60s. And they did. And they did. The other important thing about being a leader in terms of communicating and sending this aspiration is that a leader must have a core belief. You must be true to yourself. Whatever you tell your team, whatever you tell your family, must be true to yourself. Because a leader who pretends cannot lead efficiently, cannot lead truthfully. A leader who pretends will fail because his followers will lose respect. And therefore, a leader must aim high, because it is better to aim high and fail than to aim very low and succeed time after time. But when I say aim high, I also say aim high and remain low-key. Because people who remain low-key give credit to the people whom they lead. If you aim high and succeed and take all the credit, your team will not respect you. Aim high, but remain low-key. And so you must inspire your people. You must give them a reason for being. And you must be very passionate about it. My wife and I were watching a movie, and my wife and I, we watch one movie a year where we go to the theater. Otherwise, it's Netflix. And we were watching this movie on Winston Churchill. It was called The Darkest Hour, or Our Darkest Hour, and it was talking about Winston Churchill rallying the people of Britain to resist the German war machine. And in this movie, what was happening was that the whole cabinet under Winston Churchill wanted to negotiate a peace with Germany. Because Germany at that time had already invaded Poland, had invaded France and Belgium, and were literally across the channel. And the Americans refused to help. There was a passionate scene in the movie where Winston Churchill is talking to President Roosevelt, and Roosevelt says, "We can't help you." And Churchill, knowing that he had no more forces, his forces were trapped in France, refused to bow to his cabinet, who wanted to negotiate. And he said this. He said, "This is the lesson. Never give in. Never give in. Never, 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 never. In nothing, great or small, large or petty, never give in except to convictions of honor and good sense. Never yield to force, never yield to the apparently overwhelming might of the enemy." And with those words, Churchill rallied the English people to stand behind him, to stand with their limited military. And you realize what happened then, they sent a flotilla of small boats across the channel to evacuate their troops. And that's what saved Britain. But the mission is very clear. We must stand by our country and never, 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 never give in. A leader owns the mission. It is your mission. It is your own goal. And therefore, it is very easy to ask 3 questions. As a leader, you must always ask these questions. The first is, what is the prize? What is the prize? What are we aiming for? The next question that follows is simply, what is the price? What is the price of the prize? What do we need to achieve the prize? So you know the prize, you know the price. The last question is, are we willing to pay the price? Are we willing to pay the price? And therefore, what is very important for leadership is candor, honesty. Because if the price is too high, you may need to rethink. Which brings me to the second point, inspiration and motivation. A leader is authentic. We talked about being yourself. But a leader leads by example and not fear. Because anytime you lead by fear, means if that fear dissipates, you lose your followers, you lose your team. So you cannot lead by fear. You must understand what motivates a person. What makes a person want to do what you want him or her to do? And therefore, it's a question about rewards. How do you reward people? Do you just pay them? Pera lang ba tayo? Is a monetary reward enough? And the answer is no. Time and time again, in my experience, it's not about money. People who have worked for me, it's not about money. It's about understanding what gives them happiness. What makes them want to do the things we need to do. And in the end, it's recognition and not compensation. It's honor. It's gratitude, right? We need to make sure people feel fulfilled. You need to make sure your team members are fulfilled. And what is fulfillment? Fulfillment is happiness. And this is where I do my first quote from a modern pop group. We're done with John Kennedy and Winston Churchill. I look around this room and I see many young people. So you must all know the pop group, the rap group, Outkast. By the silence, I know I'm wrong. But Outkast said, true happiness is not acquired, and you won't find it on sale. When I had the privilege to run Family Bank, BPI Family Bank, time and time again, I would challenge the bank to talk about what makes us tick, what makes us the team that we are. And I would ask people, what do you do? What do you do? Right? And it's very easy. Sally would say, sir, I'm in auto loans. And I say, what do you do sa auto loans? And she would say, sir, I do the credit checks. You know, when an application comes in, I look at it, I credit score, I credit check. I say, okay. And I'll say, Sally, are we good at this? Do we do it well? And how do we do it well? And she'll say, sir, we're good at this because we have systems. We have scoring systems, we have technology, we have data, we have a system that I just enter it, the data comes out, we can approve, we can disapprove, we can act very fast, and we have a system that works our auto loans very quickly. I said, are you happy, Sally? Yes. Sir, why? I said, because, tell me, why do you do it? Why do you wake up every morning and come to Family Bank? It's not because you do auto loans. It's not because we have good systems. Why do we do what we do? And often they'll get it. Because after years, we have told our people, we are not here to make housing loans. We are not here to make auto loans. We're not here because we're the best at making auto loans or housing loans. We're here simply because we allow people to make their dreams come true. When you wake up in the morning and I am going to work because I know, or Sally knows because I don't do it anymore, right? Sally wakes up every morning happy to come to work because she knows that day someone, or maybe 2 people, or hopefully someday, 40 people a day, because of Sally's work, will be able to buy a car because she makes their dreams come true. It's not about approving loans. It's about making people's dreams come true. And when you as a leader understand that that is what motivates people, the happiness, the fulfillment, and you can fill that need for people, your battle is half won. A leader leads from the front. A leader takes the bullet and the blame. My first job in BPI, I had a wonderful experience, and this was in 1980-something. I had a wonderful experience to work for a man by the name of Ed Barcelon. I was a 27-year associate who thought I knew everything. Mr. Barcelon was a 42-year-old veteran, the only man to ever get demoted at BPI because he came in a merger and he was very senior in the other bank, and BPI brought him in and said, let's demote you first. And after a year, they realized he was really good and promoted him. He was a leader because his first lesson to me was, he said, you know, TG, you will learn from me and I will back you all the way. Because if it passes through me and we bring it to the board and something goes wrong, I will take the blame. It will not be your fault, it will be my fault. Because I am your boss, and if I sign off on it, it becomes my responsibility. And so a leader will take the bullet and the blame. A leader does not ask, what happened? A leader never asks, why are you short? A leader will ask, what can I do for you to help you meet your shortfall? A leader will say, how can I help you? That's what a true leader is. A true leader leads from the front. Finally, leaders show appreciation and gratitude. A lot of this comes from a talk I heard from a man by the name of Tom Mendoza. You know, Tom Mendoza was a fairly wealthy man. He was the vice chairman of a tech company. He donated so much money to the University of Notre Dame in the US that the business school is named after him. And I heard him talk. My boss at BPI, Mr. Montinola, whom many of you know, forced me to go for 2 weeks and study leadership. See, I hate being taught. He sent me to Stanford for 2 weeks, and I heard Tom Mendoza speak. And that changed my view on leadership. A leader knows everything about his people. He knows the dreams, he knows the aspirations, he understands what each one brings to the team. Because a leader understands that people don't care what you know until they know that you care for them. A leader feels compassion. A leader feels love for his people. And the people love him back. Over the weekend, I had a wonderful opportunity to serve as ninong to 2 people who had worked for me at Family Bank. And I only allowed it because they don't work for me anymore. I have a personal policy. If you work for me, no matter how many ranks below, I cannot be your ninong or your kumpare. Fortunately, I'm no longer their boss. And this couple, who both worked for me, got married after 5 years of dating. And to me, it was such an amazing experience to see 2 people, 2 junior officers who I had trusted and nourished and worked with for 5 years, actually get married in the province, where I finally saw what a money dance was, what a money bridge was, where I had the opportunity to pin money. But that's what leadership is about. It's about being together with your people professionally and personally. Finally, here's one thing that I really learned. And it's called catch someone doing something right. Tom Mendoza said that in his company of 12,000 people, he is the vice chairman. And as vice chairman, he does nothing. Vice chairman. He was one of the founders, made so much money. He's the vice chairman. He says, I don't do anything anymore. Seriously. But what he does is he makes sure that the people still continue to feel appreciated. And what he does is every day he has his assistant give him one name of one person in the 12,000 man organization who did something good for the community or for the company. And he picks up the phone and calls that person. And I tried it. Hard to do it every day. But let me tell you one experience. One day, I get an email from a client. And it's one of those emails you get that's, you get only two kinds of email. One complaining, always, or the other email saying thank you. This email was a thank you. It was a thank you from a client from our Session Road branch in Baguio. And the client was just so thankful for a very small thing that one of the staff in Session Road branch had done for her. And she named the staff. So I said, what the heck? Let's do this. So I picked up the phone, my secretary picked up the phone, right? Called the branch and said, can I speak to the staff, to Cherry? And Cherry comes on, I'm on the phone, and Cherry, it's TG Limcaoco. And Cherry has no words to say. Just think of yourself. She's a staff, a processor at our Session Road branch in Baguio, 250 kilometers away. She's never met me, right? And unlike government offices, my picture is not on the wall of the branch, right? She just knows that there's a TG Limcaoco who's the president of Family Bank. And he's talking to me. And she goes, sir? Oh, Cherry, I just wanted to call you and say thank you. Because Mrs. Santos, your client, wrote me and says you helped her so much. And I just wanted to thank you for helping Mrs. Santos because you are the kind of employee, you are the kind of staff that makes Family Bank make people's dream come true. 2 years later, when I was leaving Family Bank to go to Ayala, the Baguio people are still talking about that call. Cherry cannot forget it. The whole office cannot forget it because what do you think Cherry did after I put the phone down? She screams. Ah! Not really. But she puts the phone down and talks to people and say, that was Mr. Limcaoco. And they ask why. He just wanted to thank me for helping Mrs. Santos. And then it builds a culture of people wanting to help. People hoping that one day someone else will call and say, you know what? Good job. So think about that in your organization. If you can do that, maybe not necessarily every day like Tom Mendoza, but certainly not once a year like TG Limcaoco. But if you could do this once a week or once a month, think of the ripple effects it has all over the place. So be grateful, show gratitude, and catch someone doing something right. And I guess I want to end tonight by talking about one of the most memorable experiences I had at BPI. At BPI what we call the Officers Training Program. And the Officers Training Program is where we take some of our best staff, put them through a course. I would call it a torture course for 6 months, where we train them to be officers. And for a lot of staff, it's a mixed emotion going into the OTP. We call it the Officers Training Program, OTP. It's mixed emotion because they know it's hard work. They know when they come out, they'll be an officer of the bank, therefore no more overtime, right? But they'll be an officer of the bank. But it's 6 months, and I understand it's 6 months of the hardest work people have ever done. And I love meeting these graduates, these people who come through OTP, because they always ask a senior person from the bank to give the graduation speech. And so when I was at the bank, I would give the speech, maybe once every month. They would invite me, and I would talk about the honor of being part of BPI and the responsibility of being an officer. But one day, after the graduation ceremony, after I had spoken to the graduates, and they were eating their dinner, the reception dinner, I was walking around. I saw this woman crying. And I approached the woman. She obviously wasn't one of the staff. I approached her and asked her what was wrong. And she was the mother of one of the OTP graduates. And I said, "Ma'am, ba't kayo umiyak? Why are you crying?" And she recounted to me her story. And she was clearly embarrassed about crying, and she said, "Alam mo, Sir TG, Ellen, her daughter, who's now an officer of the bank, Ellen is my only daughter. And we were orphaned when she was very young. The husband had passed away. So she raised Ellen as a single mother. And it was hard work," she said. It was so hard because we didn't have much, right? She had to work 2 jobs. She contemplated going abroad, she said, but she had to make that balance between going abroad and staying with the kid. So she worked 2 jobs. She worked 2 jobs to get her Ellen through grade school, through high school, to go to Pamantasan. And Ellen ends up working for BPI as staff. Ellen works for 6 years as staff, and finally decides and gets into the OTP program. And here we are, 6 years and 6 months later, after Ellen graduated from high school, she's an officer of the bank. She says, "Sir TG, I have worked since Ellen was 4 years old to get Ellen to where she is today." Right? And Ellen will be a leader of the bank because she's an officer. And I am so proud of that. I'm just crying out of joy. Ellen doesn't know that. My point here is that all of us are leaders. All of us have had the opportunity to lead people. But just like Ellen, each one of us has someone in our past, maybe your parent, maybe your mother, maybe your grandmother, your grandfather, who sacrificed so much to bring you to where you are today. Just like she has brought Ellen to where she is today. So be thankful to that person. Secondly, ask yourself, what would that person, what would your mother, or in my case, my great-grandfather, think of me today? Would he be proud of me today? And what would my ancestor have given to be in my place today? So, leaders, it's aspiration, inspiration, and appreciation. Be grateful for what you have. Be thankful. Continue to lead. Teach your children that leadership is about sharing, aiming high, but staying low-key. Thank you very much.